Hello, hello. How you doing, guys? I've just thought I would start to do a couple of these dodgy live feeds. One, to see what all the fun is about, and two, to kind of explain a few things that I've been kind of cheats and stuff that I've been doing over the years to get by with making music. DIY music hacks. Number one, live video recording. Isn't that pro? Do you know what I mean? This is my first one, and I've already got a little intro screen. So anyway, yeah. So I've kind of like for the last 15 years or whatever, been or more, been making music. Firstly, trash fashion and remodeling a few other side groups, and then more recently with this new project, Volpi. So if you don't know, trash fashion. So anyway, so this is what we used to look like, and that's what we used to play. We made basically most of our music was all DIY, and we pretty much did everything ourselves. There was a couple of producers we worked with on a couple of tracks, but most of it was recorded on our own, produced and everything, and a lot of the videos we did ourselves. So I'm just here to kind of go through a couple of things that I learnt along the way, and I hope it's of some use to someone. The case in point for this is a track called that we did a little while ago called Virus, and this was a fully live track that we recorded in a studio. And the point was we were in a massive rush to do it because it was basically the week before we went down into lockdown. On the day we had literally a couple of hours to do this, so we're just basically a three-piece band. So there's just me on bass guitar and vocals, my brother on Ben on guitar and vocals, and then Matty Boy, the drummer, on just the drums. So I've just got a cheap and dodgy six input sound card that I use, and that is enough to get a fully live performance. Because what is really important is getting at least two channels for the drums. So I had overhead mics actually put below the cymbals in this case, just to try and get as much as the snare and the toms as possible. In fact, I've got a picture here, I think. So unfortunately, it's not a great picture, but this is about the only thing that I had. But the mics were put down here just so that we had only two. So you still get all the bleed from the cymbals, but you pick up the toms and the snare a bit better. Unfortunately, no kick drum mic as well. There was one there, but we didn't have enough channels. But what I was going to go through is this is still enough to get through. Yeah, and there's my bro. So this is how we were set up. I was down in the bottom of the screen. Ben was at the top, and Matty Boy was there, and we just had the two mics on the drums. And then basically the other key point was that the guitars, the bass and the lead guitar were recorded directly into the sound card. And that's really important for going through stuff afterwards, because if you've already run it through the amp and you're recording the mic, you're stuck with that effect, obviously. Because we were in a rush, and we hadn't even we played the song for an hour before recording it, so we hadn't sorted patches, hadn't sorted levels. So the easiest thing to do is just record the clean signal, no effects, no nothing, and that allows you to then go back afterwards. You've got the guitar and the bass isolated that you can go back and adjust as necessary. That was a big important thing. So you've got two channels for your drums, you've got a channel for your bass guitar, channel for your guitar, and then two channels for the vocals in our case. If you've got backing and stuff like that, that would need to go on a different channel. And so if you've got limited inputs, if you've got a super dodgy sound card, you'd have to only use two inputs, and at that point you need to mix down the main mix. So the other thing which we did, which is really useful for this kind of thing, is recording to a click. And I know a lot of people will be annoyed at that, because a lot of people like to play properly organically, and so do we, but we often play with a backing track. because we haven't got a keyboard player at the moment. And so, you know, that kind of leads us down that road. But in this case, we were actually going to play without a click, but we decided to play with a click just to make it easier for editing afterwards. So, because the other thing is to get a live video done of this, with having just played the thing for an hour, we knew it was very unlikely we were going to get through without making any mistakes. I'd barely learnt the vocals. Playing was a bit ropey. You know, the other tracks we did, we've got full recordings with no problems, but this, you know, we had to just muddle our way through. So one of the tricks with the video is we set it up and we recorded 4 or 5 times going through the song, but with putting a video in different places. And I'll show you in a minute that we've got 3 different key positions of the video. And that makes a big difference, because then if you've cocked up, I don't know, like loads of times I was forgetting the vocals or mixing up the text for the second verse and stuff like that, and you can just cut that bit out and stick in one from another thing, and then you cut to a different angle and it all looks cool. Now the thing is, these days it is better if you're properly dialed in and you can do the whole recording once without any mistakes. Obviously that is what you want to be doing. Time constraints didn't let us do that, so this gives you a bit of a fallback, a bit of a buffer if you want to get a fully live, real live video out, but you're just not tight enough yet. The problem is, with everyone being in the same room, the mics for the vocals are always going to have spill on them from the rest of the stuff. You can't avoid that, so you can't expect to sing crappily and adjust it afterwards, because you're going to hear everything else in the room and you can't isolate your voice very well. But if you want to play fully live, if you want that full live video experience, that's what you've got to do. And then I was going to go on to, what was the third part? So the mixing it. So do you like these screens? Do you know what I mean? It's good screens. I use Cubase. Not loads of people do. I've always used it, but you might be using like Logic or Pro Tools or even Ableton. Whatever you use, it's the same thing, different day. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make any difference. So if I show you Cubase a second. Okay, so this is Cubase. So this is the song set up. So basically in the drums, these 2 channels here, drums left, drums right, are the original signals that were recorded. And the next trick that we did to beef these up, because the problem is if you've only got the drums recorded with 2 channels, in an ideal world you'd have, you know, you'd have 2 overhead mics. You might even have an ambient mic. You've got a snare mic. You've got tom mics. You've got a kick mic. If you haven't got any of those, overhead will get you most of what you need, but the big kick and push from the snare and the kick you're going to miss. So the little trick, a lot of you will know this anyway, but for those who don't, you want to kind of adjust the frequency of the recording so that you isolate the snare or the toms or whatever, and then you basically extract the MIDI for the hit where the tom comes. And you can see, in fact, here, these bits here are the MIDI that has been extracted from one of these signals, basically, to give the kick. And I have overlaid, so you've got, and you can hear vaguely the vocal in the background actually there, can't you? But I've added in an extra kick on top and an extra snare. And that just gives it a bit of beef, and you can then also vary the levels respectively, and you're not constrained to the fact that you've just got that single signal. Same applies to the tom-toms. So all in all, you put it together and you get a kind of a fatter signal than you would. But to get those hits out, you do need to filter the signal sometimes, and that's fun and games. So that's something I'd have to go through at another stage. Do you know what I mean? And the other thing that I wanted to show you is basically this is where the kind of cheats start coming in, because if you look at the signal here, you'll see there are cuts here, ding, 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 ding. And this is basically where I have taken the different different run throughs we did of those songs. So found the best take in each section and then used that take and then just blended together the audio. Now the beauty is with having recorded the video at a couple of different angles, because we're now going to go to a different take, we can then just cut to a different take on the video, and it is fully live, but we've cheated because I've put in a middle eight section from another take. Do you know what I mean? But the thing sounds real. You don't notice the difference because of the click. So we're playing obviously to a click for doing this, so it's very simple to put it on a grid, cut down where you are in the middle eight or whatever, and put that in. But instead, if you're not playing with a click, you can still do this. You just need to fiddle around with it a bit more and get to your hit points, cut that out, and put in your other one. And the tempos might be slightly different, so you might need to stretch the audio or whatever to get it to fit in. And then you're dealing with problems with the video, having to stretch the video. If you can play with a click, it's easier. But best of all, if you're super dialed in and you've been playing your song for a year, then you won't have any problems anyway with that. And you'll probably be metronomic with your playing. Yeah, the same thing applies with the bass and stuff. Look, I've even cheated a bit in a couple of places where some bits of audio, maybe the note was slightly off or whatever, have been adjusted, or the timing was slightly off, which you're not going to notice in the video. But because you've got the isolated signal of the bass, if I listen to the bass, so because that's been DI'd, I've got no spill from anywhere else. I've just clean signal. And the same goes, very importantly, with the guitar. And you can have your different effects, but you see, the signal is clean again, and that's the really important thing. The really important thing is you might see on the video that you've played that note, but obviously with the pick or whatever, you've muted a string or whatever, and the actual sound doesn't come out very well. Here you can actually go back and sort that little bit, and the video, you can't see anything in the video. You've kind of got away with it. So let me summarize. So first thing, record your bass and your guitar directly with a clean signal if you can. It's not always possible because, for instance, my bro has some good effects on his pedal that aren't just your standard overdrive, distortion, chorus, whatever. If you've got a strange effect, you're going to need to record that in, but try and record it clean. Don't record it through the amp if you can, because then you're going to be able to mess around with it afterwards and get a better sound out of it. Second, record to a click. We've been through this, so that just helps you if you've got a few different takes that aren't going so well. You can put those together and you will never know the difference. Point three, comp together the best takes from each section. So like I say, you've just got to listen through all your takes, and if you've got one take that's pretty much good all the way through, but let's say you've just got that one bit of verse where you forgot a bit of vocal or something, you can then cut that bit out from another take, drop that in, and then you've got the video to go with that different take. The other thing, export the MIDI for the kick, snare and the tom-toms if you can. The kick and the snare is super important if you've just got two overheads. Obviously, if you've got a 10-15 input sound card, then yeah, knock yourself out, get some drum mics and do it properly. But if you're like us, you've got no money and no equipment, then this will do. Do you know what I mean? And then the last point was, yeah, record the video from a couple of different angles. I mean, it's common sense really, isn't it? If you make a cock up in that middle eight and you drop in some footage from the same position, it's going to look weird because there's going to be a jump. But if you cut to a different angle, it kind of adds a bit of presence to it, and it's not immediately obvious that you've cut to a different actual audio take. So anyway, those are my kind of like dodgy tips. Like I say, this is the first one I've done, and any feedback is great. But thank you very much for listening. And next week there's going to be a new video for our next single called Free. So I'm going to put some snippets out next week, and then there'll probably be a live feed at some point when I've worked out how the hell this all works. Do you know what I mean? So, dudes, take care of yourself. Hope to see some of you physically soon. K Bomb, dude, love you. Tell ya, you guys, take care, and I will see you very soon. Peace out.